We are back. Our girls are in bed and maybe they'll stay that way. So hello, welcome back. I'm Tiffany, this is James, and it is First Tuesday, which means we are answering some of your questions about boys with our token male.
A boy, yeah.
In residence.
Clearly an expert on what all men are thinking.
Clearly.
Thank you.
By the way, if you're a guy watching this, I know 18% of you are, please comment your answers to these 7 questions below as well so we get some more male
diversity. Yes,
and
we don't all think the same. We're individuals. Really? Shocking, I know.
So we have 7 questions that you ladies have written in. Question 1, how do I slide into the DMs of a guy I'm interested in a non-creepy way? Quite possibly someone I've never met, but just have common interests and mutual friends.
You would have to almost go out of your way to come across as being creepy.
Really?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, that's so interesting. Because for me, like, if a guy sends a DM that's like, hi, or whatever, I'm like,
yeah.
You weirdo. Like,
yeah.
Like, what do you say?
I think you have to reference a common interest or reference point.
So you have to stalk him first.
Yeah.
I love stalking.
What do you think about this? Yeah, I mean, if you
need help, call me up.
You could call it stalking.
Stalker.
You could call it research. You have to find out, what is a touch point? Like,
okay,
you think you're interested in this guy, hopefully for reasons other than he has a cute face. So I think that you want to go off that, like,
which might not even be his real face. You never know online. Serial killers.
Really?
I don't know.
Really?
You're just.
Don't DM random people. DM people that you've sort of heard of. Okay. But keep in mind, something like this, I would say, is low probability of success. So if you're only going to DM like one guy a year, this probably isn't going to work out for you. But if you're like DMing someone every couple of weeks,
so
eventually.
This is like fishing with a net versus fishing with a pole. You proud of that analogy? I just made a fishing analogy.
And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're in a position where you're like, I would like to meet someone, I would like to be with someone, put yourself out there. See who's interested in talking to you. Yeah. I mean, the most you can really get from, DMing back and forth is, hey, are we enjoying chatting with each other? Most of the time, it's not going to go anywhere, but it might.
Okay, so that brings us to the flip side. Question number 2, which is, how do you politely turn away a guy's interest in you when he is indirect and doesn't actually tell you that he's interested in you? Like, for example, messaging you on social media or inviting you out with another couple after church. Like, he's not asking you out, but you're not interested. What do you do?
If you're interested in someone, you're like, I'm making time for this person. I'm responding back quickly. I'm showing enthusiasm. So you do the flip side of that.
Yeah.
You respond back slowly. You say, that doesn't work for me, even if it could work in your schedule when you're invited. And I would say 2 or 3 times of that, most guys are going to realize she's not that interested in getting to know me better. And they're going to move on.
There was a guy who was doing this to me on social media when I was single. And I started off, just taking a few days to respond, not being available for this stuff. And he just was not getting the hint. So finally, I wrote him a message. And I'm like, you seem like a really great guy. And I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to lead you on. But I'm just not interested. I don't know if that's what you were going with this. But I don't want to waste your time. So I wanted to let you know I'm not interested in a relationship. And he was like so grateful for that. He was like, thank you for being so honest. And like, I really appreciate that. So
that's about as nice as a way as you can be let down. Obviously always disappointing when someone you're pursuing is like, I'm just not interested. But like, that's just a really nice way to let this person know, hey, move on to whoever's next.
And I respect your time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, because people who don't get hints appreciate when you're direct with them.
Which brings us to another question about hints, which is question number 3. How do I get my boyfriend to propose?
To get to propose, you need to talk about, do we think we would like to get married? And to talk about, do we think we would like to get married, you need to first talk about how compatible are we as people. And in order to discuss how compatible are we as people, you need to get to know each other in a variety of different situations.
You gotta like walk it back, see where you are in those steps.
Yeah.
The next one.
But assuming you've gotten to the step where it's like, yeah, we've talked about getting married and we're both like, yeah, we should get married. Talk through it because, guys sometimes, like I was I had reservations about getting married. I'd never been married before.
I know.
It's a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to take
too.
some time to talk through it and to think about it. And it certainly, and Tiffany had to be comfortable. Tiffany was like all in much sooner than I was. And she had to be comfortable knowing, hey, you know,
I don't think I told you I was all in though. My dad had this
yes,
idea.
you did it. You played it cool in a good way.
Thank you. I didn't want to rush you. My dad was like, when I was like, I'm gonna marry this guy. I really am. My dad was like, write a letter and postmark it so you have the date on it. Then you can give it to him when he proposes. So I carried that letter around in my purse for so long. But
it's now framed on our bedroom wall.
And then when he read it, he was like kind of laughing, like, seriously, you weirdo, you wrote me this.
I thought it was romantic and
weird.
Unusual. We'll go with romantic and unusual.
But yeah, I definitely was all in before him. But you also don't want to force them. It's not, I don't like the language of getting someone to propose, because if someone feels like cornered into it, or like it's not genuinely what they want to do.
Yeah.
That's just can lead to bitterness and not a good relationship.
So probably what we're getting at is you want to create a space and an environment where your boyfriend can start to open up about the reservations that he has about getting married. Okay. So you have to understand like where he's at and process it together. And I think that, you know, you learn a lot about your relationships as you talk about something like that, because and, you know, sometimes it'll just come out and you're like won't be able to have good conversations, and then the relationship will devolve, and that may be for the best. But I think that in relationships that really do have a lot of potential, you're going to be able to work through it in a healthy and encouraging way that's not super frustrating to you. And you're going to get to a point where you're talking about, all right, you know, what's our timeline? And then I think you need to let on what your expectations are. Like, I want to be involved in the choosing of the ring, or I really want there to be video
of the proposal.
And pictures. Not on my radar. It's a good thing we talked. Otherwise, there probably would not have been either of those.
So high maintenance.
I don't think so, sweetheart. It's good. You knew what you wanted. You knew it was important to you.
Verbalize it.
And you knew you wanted to have a manicure done.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to post the photo on Instagram. Your nails
as someone who has never had a manicure.
I did not want to be in pajamas. I did not want to have my nails weird looking.
I did not know any of this. It was good that I was informed. And I would also say, as kind of a PS, most guys want to surprise you. Your boyfriend might even be working on something now and not tell you.
Okay, question number 4. How do I know if I like a guy emotionally or if I'm simply physically attracted to him and that's it? So one person wrote, I feel like I'm blinded by his beauty, which I totally relate to, because like I used to get so anxious talking with guys who I thought were super attractive, and I couldn't be myself to form that emotional connection. And so I remember praying like the weirdest prayers.
That's true.
I prayed.
Not just for this, just in general.
Yeah, like if I make dinner.
God, please let this food taste good. Amen.
And not poison people.
Oh, and not poison people. Yeah. How could I forget that?
But no, I started praying like, when I meet the guy I'm going to marry, Lord, please don't let me know if he's cute or not, because I want to be able to be myself around him. And for the first couple of months we were together, I could not figure out if he was cute or not. And then finally I was like, okay, I think he is. And now I think you're very attractive, but like...
Thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah.
Yeah, I would say...
Is it going to be distracting if I eat my brownie and ice cream? Because it is calling my name over here.
Tiffany Dawn! I don't think a brownie sounds like that. I digress. I think that you should roll out, this thesis to 1 or 2 trusted girlfriends. Like, gee, I don't know. Do I connect with him emotionally, or am I blinded by his beauty? And say, you know, I want your feedback. And then be sure to tell them, like, what your conversations are like with this guy. Because I would say if there's an emotional connection, you're going to talk passionately about things that you care about. Whereas if you're blinded by someone's beauty, you're just going to be like,
That's what I did. So annoying.
And I think that someone who knows you well is going to hear you recount and be like, wow, you have a connection. And it's like,
true.
Wow, you're just excited that he's hot.
True. Question number 5. How do I deal with doubts in faith while in a relationship? My boyfriend of 4 years is going through a season of doubt. And while he still values his faith, he's wrestling with some things. So how do I trust God in this time? I worry about him because I love him so much.
the reality is like, does it make it maybe a little more, you're questioning more because you're not yet married? Yeah, I think so. The reality is that every couple goes through this phase. It's just a lot of them, like us, well, we're married, so we work through it together. And so I think that on some level, that's my suggestion, is like, you work through this together.
And it tells you a lot about each other, the way you work through it together.
Yeah.
And it's not that you have to stay together, but as you work through it together, you'll learn about each other because you're invested. You've been together 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this isn't like I met him 3 weeks ago. This is like you guys are in each other's lives. And so you don't have to stay together, but you can learn a lot during this process.
And I think it's important to involve other people in this process. I think that you need to talk to your boyfriend. Gee, I'm so worried. I care so much about you. I know you're going through tough, who can we talk to about this that's just going to be supportive of us? And that trusted village is going to give you feedback like, oh no, this is taking a turn for the worse. You should be grateful you're not married and leave. But, hopefully it's not going to come to that.
And also recognizing that as faith grows, it's not going to always look the same as it did. And that's normal and that's healthy. Question number 6. I sometimes feel like because I'm 23 and have never been asked out, there must be something wrong with me and I must be totally undesirable. We hear this all the time.
You are not alone. You are not alone. Whether you are a guy or a girl, you are not alone.
I think actually I read a study that young people are having way less sex, like hugely less sex, but it's because they are in way less in-person relationships. Like there's just a lot less actual dating happening nowadays. It's just like all this virtual social media stuff. And so people aren't getting in these relationships. So I think it's normal that a lot of people are feeling like I've never been asked out. I've never been on a date because just the way society works, things are a little different.
Yeah. I mean, and there's, I think, 2 things to note. One, if you're like us and you're raised in a conservative Christian home, it may be that you could put yourself out there.
True.
To meet and be met a lot more than you do.
True.
And so, with close friends, assess your situation and say, hey,
that's a good point.
Maybe I should get out there more.
I know,
but
like,
also
I've seen like, this idea of like waiting on God is like the spiritual covering for like, I'm afraid of rejection. So you like stay stagnant and it's like couched in the spiritual language. People are like, wow, good for you. You're waiting on God. And sometimes it's true, but a lot of times it's like, it's actually more of a fear of rejection thing.
But the other layer is, if you have standards, and you should, you're going to date fewer people.
True.
Because you're not just like taking everyone, doing whatever they want to, like just sort of like, hey, whatever, I'm down. You are saying, no, which is...
You are narrowing your pool, and that is good for you.
Yeah.
But it is narrowing your pool.
It's true.
Yeah. So the second part to that question is that sometimes it's hard not to feel down, even when I know my worth is in Jesus. So what advice do you have? And I think on that emotional side of it, like, I would say I think there's a lot of pressure to not feel down, to be like, my worth is in Jesus. I'm okay. I don't have to feel down. But you know what? Like, it is okay to feel down. Like, honestly, like, my single years were some of the hardest in my life because I really wanted to be in a relationship. And I knew that my worth came from Jesus, but that didn't make it less hard. And that's okay.
Yeah. But I would also say, in that season, limit the time when you are home alone by yourself being single. In the sense that you want to invest your time in people and things that are meaningful to you.
And not get sucked up in like, I'm alone right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So the final question is, I've never dated before, haven't been on a date, much less been someone's girlfriend. So there's this guy from summer camp. Neither of us ever used the word date while we were hanging out. So I'm wondering, first question, how to tell if we're dating or just talking?
I would say you're probably just talking.
Okay. If it's not been defined. Okay. I also am not very attracted to him romantically so far. Does that seem normal to you? And if we're sort of dating, how long do I wait to see if I develop feelings of attraction for him?
Okay. You've been talking. You have some kind of a connection, but you're not super attracted to him yet. So if you were to say, hey, do you feel like this relationship is going anywhere? And he's like, no, we're just friends. Are you going to be super hurt? It sounds like maybe you're not. So if that's the case, maybe I would do that. Put him on the spot a little bit. See what he says.
For me, I was in this relationship where I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And there are...
But you were in that relationship.
Right.
You were actually dating.
True.
Okay.
But I think there are different reasons for that back and forth. Like sometimes it's because you don't have that chemistry. You don't have that like attraction, that sense of I want to be with this person. But it could also be like you're
just really new to this.
Right. Or you're
Maybe
really struggling with insecurities or bad past relationships that make you feel like you're like projecting onto this guy. So there's all different reasons. So you want to kind of look at like why am I not feeling super attracted to him? Is it because of things in my past? Is it something in me? Or is it just like, I'm just not super drawn to this guy? And I think if you haven't dated a lot, it can be easy to be like, well, how attracted do I need to be? Like, if I'm just a little attracted, is that enough? Or like, but once you're like, you find someone and you're like, oh my goodness, like with James, it was like, this is different than any guy I've been with. Like it was
and you had perspective because
true.
I dated a lot of people and I had dated people too. So it
was just like, it wasn't like a little bit of attraction I was trying to like convince myself into. It was like, I love being with this guy.
If you're like not sure where something's going with a guy, ask yourself, do I want to keep investing time? If the answer is yes, then go for it. But if the answer is, I don't know if I want to keep investing time, ask him what he's thinking.
Or just move on.
Yeah, or just move on.
Yeah. Sitting here editing our video, realizing that my camera cut out in the middle of our ending. So that's the end. Thank you guys for your questions, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Life Advice You Don't Hear in Church. Bye.